The direct, realistic universe currently consists of roughly 80 distinct properties spread across theatrical films, television series, and special presentations. Consuming the entire catalog requires hundreds of hours. To put that in perspective, that is the same time commitment typically needed to reach conversational fluency in a new language. The in-universe timeline is just as daunting. It spans thousands of years, with stories like the animated series Eyes of Wakanda reaching all the way back to 1260 BC. The overarching narrative threads its way through the global conflicts of World War II, anchored by the 1941 setting of Captain America: The First Avenger. From there, the timeline stretches forward into a retro-futuristic 1960s era to introduce the Fantastic Four: First Steps. Navigating this massive backlog before the major tentpole films arrive in 2026 requires a deliberate, calculated strategy. The era of casually watching Marvel is over. Choosing a consumption framework is now a major investment of your personal time. Two main frameworks dominate the debate: release order versus chronological order. The chronological framework sequences every project based on when events occurred within the universe's internal history. The release framework ignores that timeline, ordering media exactly as they premiered in our world. We are examining the structural trade-offs of these two methods to help you protect your viewing experience, rather than ranking the movies themselves. Your specific viewer profile determines which order will provide the best payoff, as the wrong choice can lead to a disjointed narrative and broken pacing. The primary benefit of release order is that it preserves the intended meta-narrative and the layered mystery setups that span different production phases. By following the theatrical rollout, post-credit stingers are timed perfectly to tease the very next movie on your watch list. This structure protects foundational character reveals meant to surprise the audience, like the first time Nick Fury appears to discuss the Avengers Initiative. However, this order requires significant mental gymnastics to track a non-linear storyline. You will regularly jump decades backward in time. One movie might end on a modern-day cliffhanger, only for the next film to jump back to 1995 to introduce Captain Marvel's origin. These abrupt temporal shifts often disrupt the emotional momentum built up by the previous entry in the franchise. Release order treats you as a participant in a decade-long cultural event, prioritizing structural surprises over linear historical logic. The main draw of chronological order is the experience of a seamless, historically linear narrative. This reframes the entire universe into a generational epic, moving from ancient history to the modern multiverse without any chronological detours. This method has a significant flaw. It severely damages dramatic irony by exposing future plot points prematurely. Several early chronological entries contain post-credit scenes that explicitly spoil twists meant for films released years later in the production cycle. You also have to contend with tonal whiplash as you jump between vastly different eras of real-world visual effects and filmmaking styles. While chronological order creates a clean historical record, it breaks the dramatic architecture the filmmakers originally designed. The sheer volume of Phase 4 and 5 streaming television shows has introduced a significant amount of viewer fatigue. Using critical consensus data, we can chart the required viewing hours to see the immense time savings found in skipping lower-rated streaming shows. The trade-off is that you may occasionally miss minor character setups before the major theatrical team-up films. For the deeply fatigued fan, there is a third option: transitioning to the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. Projects like the Deadpool Role Plays the Marvel Universe one-shot convert passive, solo binging into an active, social engagement with the lore. This route requires purchasing rulebooks, organizing game schedules, and a higher cognitive effort than just watching a screen. However, the social return on a tabletop campaign is often much higher than the experience of watching a critically panned television series. Your media investment doesn't just dictate what content you consume, it defines how you participate in the fandom itself. This matrix matches your viewer archetype with the consumption framework offering the highest return. First-timers should stick to release order to protect the Infinity Saga's reveals. Lore historians on a rewatch should pivot to chronological order. Knowing the twists in advance allows you to appreciate the strict historical linearity without the penalty of spoilers. A core optimizer looking to avoid fatigue should stick exclusively to theatrical releases and bypass the television shows. The active gamer archetype should use the tabletop RPG to turn their interest in the lore into a creative, social activity. The optimal watch order depends entirely on your prior exposure to the franchise and your current time constraints. The upcoming cinematic crossover events will be massive in scale, requiring a clear understanding of the story so far. Catching up on decades of lore should never feel like an obligatory chore. Before hitting play on the next movie or show, audit your own viewing habits and decide what kind of return you want for your effort. In a cinematic universe of infinite timelines and alternate realities, the single most finite resource you have is your own time.